Stream. There we go. Stream is started. Let's see if it gets up on the YouTube immediately. Anytime now. There it comes. And audience is coming up. There it is on the Twitter saying that stuff. Come on. There we go. You are live. That's what we're looking for. Perfect. We are live on the YouTube. Sherwin, if you're tuned in already, you see Sherwin's seat is empty, but he is
not for long.
Filling it shortly. So let me get this out on the Twitter, and then we'll get started. He is briefed and ready to roll, Sherwin.
All right, sweet. Hope you didn't tell them all my deep, dirty secrets.
Every one of them.
All right. Well, welcome to my world, Brant.
Let's see. We'll do that. We'll do that. And, oh, we get so many more letters on Twitter now. Like, what is it?
280.
Yeah, 280
it's
now.
Actually obscene, but sometimes it's nice.
Yeah, it's nice just to be able to paste that in there and not have to do, like, change all the ands to ampersands and do all that stuff. So I at least get to do that. So let's see. With that, YouTube is up and running. We're ready to go there. Let me do a quick, make sure I didn't mess up the sound.
Speaking of sound, I need to turn mine
good.
off.
Okay. So that's looking good. That's looking good. And that is looking good. With that, we're about ready to go live and kick this thing off. Let me pull up, make sure I have the sound effects ready. Sound. And we're going to go to our theme song here. Stop. Make sure that's turned up. Make sure that is turned up. And we'll be ready to roll. Mr. Brant, are you ready to go?
Yeah, good to go.
Excellent, Sherwin.
Yes.
All right, let's do this. Off we go. Yep. All right, off and ready.
Phones are doing phone things.
If you're watching on YouTube, thank you for joining. We'll be rolling right now. We are recording.
Sweet.
Welcome, y'all! That's right. This is the Pregame Engineer Tailgate Mayor Racing Podcast, episode number 123. 123. It is Thursday, November 30th, 2017. I'm Tailgate Mayor Rusty Wallace. I'm joined in the PTM Podcast studio with Pregame Engineer Andrew Sherwin. What's up, dude?
Yeah, Tailgate Mayor has a way better radio voice than me, but I'm going to try to compete with him today.
Get after it. You've got the Movember going. Nice stash.
I had to trim her up just a little bit.
I've still got Ron Jeremy just flowing.
Looking good. Looking good. if only there was... Oh, never mind.
Well, with that, we do have a guest tonight. We're really excited to bring him on. He's got a few minutes with us here. Like I said, excited to do this. Excited to do the off-season. We're like kicking off the off-season.
Yeah, I think this was be officially the off season.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
We didn't have a race last weekend,
right?
And that was the first time we did a show, or we're doing a show where there wasn't a race last weekend.
Yeah. So off we go. Tonight's guest, he's a NASCAR journalist with accolades from USA Today Sports, ESPN, Auto Week, and SI.com. You can find him on Twitter at Brant James. And here to officially kick off the off season, Mr. Brant James. Welcome, Brant. What's happening?
Greetings from my garage. Yeah, it's the off season, but Daytona the other day sent out tweet. It's already under 90 days or something to the Daytona 500. The off season is pretty condensed as it is, but the countdown's begun to 18. So soak it up while you can.
Absolutely.
I think it's all the way to the ridiculousness of there's only 81 days left.
81
until like not qualifying day, but like race day.
Yeah, race.
It's like in the 70s for qualifying day.
Yeah.
You know what? Yeah. Why don't we explore that a little bit, Brant? We've talked about on the show, and this our show sheet is like half a page long usually, so we just jump around from topic to topic. Let's start right there with the length of the season and everything. I know people are talking, but there's all these contracts in place, blah, blah, blah. But in the ideal situation, are we in the right place right now with number of races, or what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I've always been one to believe that less is more. There's problems. You could spend a whole show talking about the problems that are sort of haunting the sport. You can talk about attendance. You could talk about TV ratings. I think there's too many races. I think there's too many places that the series goes to twice. I don't know if you get rid of all the double races that the other race will pack in. I guess we'll find out with New Hampshire if that helps. But I think there's too much product out there. I don't sell things for a living. I'd be a very bad salesman. But I tend to believe that if you offer the general public less of something, you would make the remaining product more valuable, and maybe they'll decide that they've got to have it. Maybe they've got to have some New Hampshire. Maybe that would pack in the stands a little bit. And not only just from a standpoint of putting more people in the stands or maybe watching more on television, I think you're dealing with one of the longest seasons in sports. I think you could cut it down a little bit. I think you could probably make it a little more immediate, a little more urgent, and a little more exciting by just making it a little more scarce.
I like it.
I don't hate that concept at all.
Yeah. Brent, we start the show off the same way every time. That topic just kind of popped in my head. Figure we go explore it. But the PTM posse, as we call the fans, they would get after us.
Tar and feather.
Tar and feather is probably the way to put it.
Yeah.
If we didn't ask you what you're drinking on tonight.
Yeah. I mean, there's many sides of it. I mean, if you're stuck in an elevator with Eddie Gossage and bring that up, he's liable to hit the emergency stop and talk your ear off for 2 hours. Brent Dewar, the president of NASCAR, was having a back and forth with him on Twitter, talking about many and various topics. I think they were talking about the enhanced and more NASCAR code, the shortened weekends, which I think is a good idea too. I mean, you've been to these tracks and you've seen Friday. There's no one there. I mean, I think if you go to a race, you want to see some stuff on the track, but I think in these economic times they're better. They're not 2009 level, but I think if you take a family of 4 to a racetrack and you don't live around the corner, you're spending several $1,000s. So I think if you could pack more things into a Saturday and Sunday, give them qualifying in a race on that day, take a hotel room day off of it, take about 4 meals off of it, and a plane ride, I think there's some value to that. So it all goes back to the less is more. To me, it is in one way it's tough because if a fan goes to the track, they want to see a whole bunch of action. They want to pack something in for every dollar they spend. But I still think that if you make it a little more bite-sized, if you give them a chance to go, someplace and make it a special experience, not to pick on Dover. Do I go to Dover here? Or do I go to Dover, in the fall? I think that would be a really nice experiment to have, and it would be awesome billable hours for all the lawyers that would have to unravel it, honestly, until the next TV deal is up.
For sure. Can you hear me okay?
I'm good, man.
All right. What you drinking on tonight?
Do I sound that bad?
No.
This is part of it.
This is a question that our the way Sherwin just put it was our fans would tar and feather us if we didn't ask our guests this question. We've forgotten it before, and I think the listenership fell off.
Feedback wasn't great.
Yeah, it wasn't a good thing.
Well, keep them happy. What is this? It was the black can with the skull on it. Dead Guy Rogue Ale. Pretty good. I highly recommend. Maybe
Hell yeah.
Yeah, Rogue was something that we kind of discovered here in Atlanta after they did the whole 6% alcohol is now legal thing,
really?
12, 14 years ago?
Yep.
And Rogue started appearing in places, and we kind of, okay, I like this. This is different.
That's
this is something
stuff.
Crazy.
It's good stuff. I live in the St. Pete, Florida area, and for whatever reason, I can't explain it. We have a whole bunch of really great microbrew places around here. So I try to get the local stuff when possible, but I'll admit the really cool black can with a skeleton on it. I tried it and it was super good. So
nothing wrong with that.
Well, that's great. So we were doing a kind of a trip around the country, so to speak, to close out the NASCAR season. I don't think I figured out it was a cool idea to do that until maybe 8 weeks to go, where I started trying to find a beer local to the track, or at least local to the state where the race was going to run. So when we ran Homestead, we had the High out of Tampa from Cigar City.
Right. That's one of our local. Miami has gotten better. In the Wynwood area, there's a couple of really good places that make their own. And I don't even know what neighbor. It's probably near Doral. The MIA. They ship all over the state. They're pretty good too. So I give Miami credit. They got better in that regard.
We'll have to check that out next time we're down in that area.
Florida's still trying to figure out how to get outside their borders with beer, and they will. They've got a ton of breweries, but they're not doing – their distribution isn't great. Cigar City is really the only one that's getting distribution in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my favorite one is a couple miles from me, and they barely even put it in kegs, maybe at the local bowling alley or something. But that's fine. More for me. Don't ship it around. My nightmare would be that like they get bought by Anheuser-Busch or something. Like it seems like so many brew pubs, so many microbrewers want to do that. They want to get just big enough and then get sold. And good for you, man. If someone's going to write you a big check, take it. But I'm kind of selfish. I want mine to stay just where it is.
I just had that discussion with a coworker the other day, and he was saying, I can't believe one of our locals got bought by InBev. And I said, man, you open a brewery, you cash this huge check, and now what do you get to do? You get to make whatever beer you want for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So why not?
So I like it. We could probably do 3 hours easily on this topic alone.
Oh yeah,
maybe we should.
Okay.
But and we may do
today.
it. Come January, we may do just an hour talking about beer. But
just do the tour. You could spend. I mean, pound for pound, to me, Richmond is the best.
Really? So that's
NASCAR
good.
side. Richmond. I don't think Richmond has a peer.
Wow.
On the circuit. Let me think real quick. I mean, Sonoma, good because of Russian River.
I haven't heard of them.
In Santa Rosa. But no. Yeah, Richmond. Pound for pound, it's definitely Richmond.
That's cool.
All right,
That's good
sounds
to know.
like we're going to get on a plane soon. Go to a
And
race.
I went to Richmond a couple years ago. Not the track, but
I remember you drove on the track.
I drove on the
in
track
your rental car.
in my rental car. That was a great time. Yeah.
Hopefully you had permission to do that.
Yes. My wife was taking video and I didn't know it. And at one point I yelled NASCAR, or I shouldn't say lie. I yelled NASCAR and hit the gas. And she's laughing her butt off. There's video of that somewhere.
I think they call that evidence in Henrico.
Yeah,
County.
right.
Yes,
Right.
yes,
Well,
they
with
do.
my mugshot all over YouTube and Twitter and all the rest of it, oh well, just add it to the pile of crazy crap that I've said.
Easy to catch.
Sherwin, what do you got today?
Okay, so what I've got is Jekyll Brewing, Seven Bridges Oktoberfest. And there's an interesting little story about this beer. It won an award at the North American Beer Festival, but for whatever reason, the demand didn't fit what they decided to produce. So they way overproduced, and so instead of dumping it down the drain, they're blowing it out at the tap room for 50 cents a bottle.
Wow.
So
All
I
right.
got a case for $12, and it's a good beer.
Wow. Well then.
The bottle should
Everybody
cost more than
wins.
that empty.
Yeah.
Oh, and then I stole some of your Jim Beam.
Well, that'll happen. I've got the local Red Brick out of Atlanta. They did a collab with the Georgia Aquarium, also in Atlanta. And then we have the Penguin Pale Ale. It says a contemporary pale ale. Tastes good. So I'm happy with
Does
that.
that have bits of real penguin in it?
You know what? That's a good question.
Do you have to drink that with your pinky out since it's contemporary?
Maybe pinky out, contemporary, a little bit of penguin. I think I get a hint of penguin. Something
Penguin's
like
a delicious bird, by the way. Wait, what?
Yeah, why not? Goes great with cod.
that.
For sure.
Great with eagle and everything.
Eagle.
Well, Brant,
Dodo bird.
since we're all, or before we get off the rails completely.
All right, out of the ditch, back on the road.
Right,
We're
right.
good.
Brant, what you up to this off season? What's going on?
Just like you said, the off season, like we're talking about, the off season's so short, just sort of recouping, and you try and soak up what happened last year and try to figure out how all of these little storylines all show up in Daytona in February with the reporters and the cars and the drivers and the teams. So it goes really fast. Just doing what everybody else does. Did a little trip for Thanksgiving to the in-laws. I'm going to go right back for Christmas, and then pretty soon it's January, and it feels like as soon as January 1st hits, it just feels like everything absolutely speeds up. So you try to make December last as long as possible, not just because you get presents at Christmas and stuff like that, but January 1st, it seems like it really, really starts to go at high speed.
Well, we've got a question from a listener about
Ooh.
Thanksgiving. Laura at it's either from age is good or fromage.
I'm pretty
good.
sure it's a cheese thing.
It's a cheese thing. Okay, fromage is good. How about that for my French or whatever of the day?
Right. You didn't even consult me. I
know,
told you,
I
but
know.
it was more funny to say from age.
Yeah, right.
Because aged cheese is actually a thing, too.
Yeah, yeah. So she asks, cranberry sauce, ridged from the can or fresh with whole berries?
Oh, absolutely. No doubt about it. I like the ones from the cans with the little ridges on it.
Yes, sir. You know, it's funny.
Not even close.
Me and my wife have a tradition, somewhat of a tradition, I guess now, of we cook Thanksgiving completely from scratch. Everything from the most base ingredients that we can muster. So even like the green bean casserole, which is usually a can of soup with some can of green beans and some of that stuff on top. I mean, we're downstairs frying our own little onions. She's making cream and mushroom soup from real mushrooms and cream that she got, all this stuff. Cranberry from a can is the only thing on our table that is absolutely in it, and you can't mash it up. Laura's exactly right. You can't mash it up or nothing. It's got to have them ridges, so you know where to cut. Sherwin?
Yeah.
I won't touch that crap with a 10-foot pole. My mother insists on having it. She's the only one that'll eat it, but she does cut it out or slurp it out of a can. Like it,
yeah, it
kind of
does that.
blops out, right?
But yeah,
and
it
then
makes
she
that
does
special sound when it comes out of there, when the air hits those ridges.
Yeah.
She slices along the can ridges. It looks pretty. She's got all those little slices there. She'll have like one, and then the rest goes in the trash because Dad and I are like, hell no.
Mine does not get wasted. It goes in the Tupperware, and it gets parceled out for the next week.
Yes, yes, sir. I'm thinking
Pretty
maybe
sure
next
that stuff's
year.
nuclear waste.
Maybe next year
Right.
I'm going to cut it lengthwise and see what people do.
Like hot dog style.
Yeah. Like they'll freak out. Like, what are you doing? You just cut the cranberry. Like, I'm going to have to get another can in order to be like
save
all right,
face.
Yeah, to save face. Be like, no, I was just joking with that can. So anyway, all right, good stuff.
That's funny.
Brant, you were talking about some storyline or about what storylines are following. Are there any early storylines that you're looking at?
Hurt Bush.
Well, I think the carryover is what's Monster going to do. I mean, they've already gone past the original deadline of renewal. It's a 2-year deal. They're going to be back next year, but they've got to renew for 19 and 20. They've gotten that pushed back into January now, and that's getting very close too. And as I said, when you get to January 1st, everything starts to speed up. That's a really big deal. NASCAR's had to go through this a couple times already. Replacing title sponsors. And if they get 2 years out of Monster, and both sides say the sponsorship is working for them, although the Monster executives don't say as much as they used to. They sort of hid from us at Homestead, which makes you wonder. That would look bad for the sport. And not only looking bad, the fact that they've got to go out and hunt up a title sponsor again for the second time in 3 years is a big deal, because as much as this is a sport, it requires a whole bunch of money, not only for teams but for the series to make this thing run. So that, to me, that's sort of 1A, and then you start getting into the competition stuff, because a lot of the competition stuff I think was positive. Stage racing I think turned out well. It broke up some of the long races really nicely. I thought it was particularly good at the plate tracks. So I think the series has a lot to be pleased with, and Truex, Martin Truex Jr. and Cole Pearn just absolutely wrote the script for how to attack that and gain points and get into the championship final at Homestead without winning in that third round. So the on the track stuff I think is working pretty well, but not to make this all about business. You got to get someone to pay for it, and you got to get people to watch it. So I think the Monster thing is the most immediate off-season business and storyline to watch.
Wow,
sure.
That's something,
and it's pretty heavy too.
I hadn't even thought about that.
Well, and I saw it come out yesterday, and I was like, I'm not piling on with this because I'm not trying to be negative Nancy going into the winter break here, as we'll call it, because everybody else is going to do that. I don't need to do that. We don't need to do that as a podcast. It doesn't matter. I do want to introduce another interesting subject, though, that is kind of got a dark cloud over it, from a follower that's actually active on YouTube right now. What do you think about this BK Front Row Motorsports and the banking perspective on this lawsuit that's going to happen?
Yeah. I mean, that's another situation with this business is just not as good as it should be, as the participants would hope. I mean, the franchise system, where are we going into year 4, I believe? I don't think this has been the bonanza that teams had hoped for. I mean, I think it's great that, it started with the Drivers' Council, where drivers get together and they have a voice, and then the owners can sort of get together and they have a collective voice that they can take to the series. And it seems like they've gotten some concessions. I mean, my goodness, the members, executives like Brian France and Brent Dewar actually humored questions about salary caps. They didn't refer to them as that, but can you in your life imagine NASCAR executives in this sport, bred on independent contractors, they humoring a talk of salary caps? But I don't think these franchise values have been as good as the owners had hoped. Going back to the scarcity of market and the less is more, when they created these charters that could be leased once during the 5 or sold, the idea had to be to create value. Rob Kaufman, when he helped create the owners committee, the RTA was talking about, this is tangible value. If someone wants to get out, if for whatever reason they fall out of love with racing, rather than selling everything for pennies on the dollar, they have something. They have this token. They have, in essence, a franchise that they could sell, a point of entry. But you go to the track on weekends and there's cars that don't have franchises that are still going to be able to get in. That lessens the value, and there's just not a clamor for these. So, yeah, this lawsuit is just another situation where it just feeds into me that the business side is not well. And these aren't 2 power teams, but to me that makes it even worse. You have mid-level teams that you want to have come in. You want to have them compete. I think the average fan, they don't want it always to be Hendrick, Penske, Ganassi, whoever. And the point of entry money-wise and competitively for these middle teams still remains really, really tough.
We hear, Sherwin, from a lot of folks in, who have a vested interest in the sport. In other words, drivers or crew chiefs or spotters and stuff that we've had on. Everybody talks money, and it's something that is on the forefront of everything going on. So it's interesting to me that this is one of the main story, or the main storyline that Brant has brought up in the offseason right now, between both the Monster Energy thing, which again I had not even thought of, and what you just brought up too.
Yeah, well, I think so. I'm going to nitpick and or get into semantics, however you look at it. I think one of the things that's crazy to me is you said the word franchise, and I thought from the beginning the way that the next phase of the way this should work for NASCAR is franchising, and the way we think about it from all of our other stick and ball sports perspectives is that, yeah, you can't, there aren't a couple of teams that just get to show up ragtag and say, hey, I want to play the Falcons or I want to play the Redskins and get a chance to do it.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. So I totally get what you're saying from the perspective of you might be devaluing even worse. If you only ran 36 cars, that has a perspective for NASCAR, whatever that means for the back of the field. Mm-hmm. Shout out Brock Beard. But by adding the opportunity for 4 cars to show up without that investment in the franchise, yeah, you do devalue the cars that they're competing against, which is probably the last 5 to 10 cars that are going to finish in any particular race. So there's that aspect of it. And I always kind of thought, if you could sell this thing as a franchise, because at some point baseball had to become this, right? Baseball isn't what it is now because of original franchising. Mm-hmm. It had to evolve over the course of we're working on 160 years of evolution at this point of baseball. We're only got 70 years in NASCAR to look at, 65. So I don't have an end for that comment. I'm kind of with you on the back of that field is being pretty devalued.
And it's tough because this is a sport where the stories of these guys that are wrenching on cars in a barn are great. They're part of the underpinnings of the sport. And I mean, how cool it'd be for a couple of guys from South Carolina to buy a old whatever, old Ford from Penske that they didn't want anymore, and just because they're good at it and they love it and they could somehow scrape together some money that they could put the thing together, then somehow someone, I mean, this is all fantasy, but they could win a race. If a couple of dudes could show up, they could rent a pit crew and they could run really well, and they don't have the money to show up anymore. It ain't ever going to happen, but that you sort of take that away if the whole field is charters, franchises. So you're right, with the age of the sport, of the series, they sort of are in one of those, I don't know, growth spurt or puberty phases or something, where they got to figure it out, because it's just not going to be this romantic thing that it once was. It's been big business for a long time, but the economy and a lot of realities are sort of forcing upon them that they've got to make changes, and I don't know, maybe take some of the romance out of it for some people.
I think, yeah, we got to get you out of here pretty soon here. I think the question I would want to ask is, does NASCAR, the 3 top-level touring series, do they really need to have the run what you brung component to them, or can we leave that to late model racing? That's where that happens.
That's a good question. It's a good question. Yeah. There's so many different things that are going to go on with these OEMs in the future. Not one of them any less scary than what they do when it's autonomous cars. All the manufacturers are dealing with this. Are people going to want to watch? Are they still going to be interested in watching drivers race around in cars when they get in their own car and say, "Google, take me to Publix" or something? I hate to be a downer and all these big thing questions, but there is a lot going on with it. But I mean, this is a major corporate sport now, and it's really interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how these manufacturers figure out what they get out of it, like why racing is important to them. I think there's always going to be some sort of racing. If there's 2 dudes, they're going to run around and see who's faster. If there's 2 cars, then someone's going to race them. But it's just going to be really fascinating to see like what form the series of sport takes in the next 30 years. I can't even picture what it's going to be in 30 years. What's it going to be?
No kidding. Brent, we want to respect your time here. 2 more questions for you. One, hats off real quick from us. Bud Moore, legendary owner, Hall of Famer, passing away. And not just that, but World War II vet. And I went up and I was just looking on Wikipedia, and it's like Battle of Normandy, Battle of the Bulge. I'm like, good grief, this
Dude
guy.
had 5 Purple Hearts.
5 Purple Hearts, unbelievable. The whole ordeal. You had a cool story on Twitter that I don't want it to get sort of lost in the feed or anything. If you have a second to relate that to us.
Yeah. Bud Moore's the kind of guy that makes you question what you did today, and just how much you guys
exactly.
It was 2 years ago. It was my first year on the NASCAR Hall of Fame voting committee, and I was way over my head in power at my table. At the end of the table was Richard Petty, and he's fascinating because he's the king. He can do whatever he wants. And he sits there and he crosses his leg and he doodles. He doodles the entire time. I don't even know if he brought his own note. Oh, they give us notepads to take notes, but he doodles on it. And Richard Petty's actually a really good doodler. He's doing these little dream catcher things with like sparrows and crows coming off him. It's kind of hard not to look at. So
you could have stole it and sold it for like $1,000, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. and just to my left is Mike Helton, longtime NASCAR VP. So, big imposing guy. He's very friendly, but all right, there's Mike Helton. To my right is Edsel Ford II, who, quite obvious, an executive at Ford, another extremely nice man, chit-chat. To his right was Eddie Wood, and to his right was Bud Moore on the end of the table. Goodness. So This is a power table plus me. So the way the voting generally breaks down is someone's name gets thrown out, and if you have a feeling, you debate. And quite often what happens is TV people, not to besmirch them too much, but they do sort of like to hear themselves talk. So I don't even remember who the topic was. And one of the TV guys got up and gave a fairly long explanation of why they thought this guy should be in. And then another major network TV person got up and said, yeah, I don't know. but with like 1,000 more words than that. So it went on and on and on and on. And Bud Moore was at the end of the table, and he was getting flustered. He was honestly getting sick of this. I mean, this is probably not why he stormed the beach, was to sit here and listen to this argument about this guy. Right. So Eddie Wood's kind of talking to him, and they're kind of going back and forth. And like Bud is, he's not causing a scene, but you can hear that like Bud's ready for this to be done. We've been in there a couple hours. And this suddenly out of nowhere, Bud Moore goes, "Let's vote!" in this high-pitched voice. And the room just was absolutely quiet. And I think Brian France was the one who goes, "Okay, let's take a vote." No more discussion. I don't even know what happened to the guy, but Bud Moore cut through it. So that was the most powerful at the power table. When Bud Moore said it was time to go, it was time to go.
It was time to go.
American badass.
I love it. One more question from the listeners. Andrew Kantian at KHANTZIAN. We have a history of pronouncing his name incorrectly.
True.
So this one's fun. You don't have to name names, but are there any drivers who you don't look forward to interview because of difficulties in interviewing, or maybe if there's a story about interviewing someone,
behavioral issues?
Yeah, anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll say this. They all have their moods.
Uh-huh.
By and large, everyone is pretty easy. I won't name names.
Sure.
There's a couple who everyone sort of got their own snit level. Like Matt Kenseth, really easy. I mean, that guy. I mean, the way he went out at Homestead was just the most Matt Kenseth thing. Really understated. He had loose lug nuts on that last stop. I mean, this is his drop the mic moment. He finished in the top 10, and I'm looking on the grid like, where is Matt Kenseth? Like everyone's swarming Junior. And Matt Kenseth is down at the end of pit road just talking to people, and I walk up, "Matt, you got a second?" "Hey, man, sit down." I mean, his snit level's very low. You can walk up with him just about any time. But there are a couple who start a little closer to a boil, and they don't humor a warm-up question. They like to get right to it, which is fine. I respect that, but they kind of nitpick the question. I mean, I know what I'm doing a little bit. I don't know how to drive the darn car. I don't know about towing. I don't know what he feels. He's a professional. He does what he does, and I do what I do. So, yes, it's not like we have favorites, but I think it's sort of like if you're a cowboy, you know that, Cheyenne, the paint horse, is kind of a big pain in the ass. And, Bucky, that pony, he's really easy. So it's like anything else in life. You just kind of have to negotiate it and navigate it.
There you have it.
So that was a long way to say yes.
Yes.
That's the best yes I've ever heard.
Hey, let's vote.
Let's vote.
I love it.
Let's vote.
All right. Brant, tell everybody where they can find you. What's up next? What you're up to in the offseason, coming up soon, et cetera, et cetera. We want to get you out of here. Respect your time. We appreciate you being on.
Oh, yeah, it was fun. Just follow me on at Brant James, BrantJames. That's my name all smashed together. Just working on some freelance projects for the off season. I don't have any grand thing to tell you now. I'm just going to take a breath for a little bit and just get ready for Daytona, which is coming up fast. But pretty much all that stuff we were talking about earlier is pretty high up on the in the queue. So, keep checking it out. It's love doing it for you guys, and hope to talk to y'all soon.
Absolutely. So, Brant, I want to give you this opportunity since you used to do a podcast post-race with Mr. Jeff Cluck from jeffcluck.com. He's next up for us. Do you have a question you would like for him to answer?
Ooh, yeah.
Okay. I'm writing it down.
Ask him. Boy, God, I've worked with him for so long. There could be 5 or 6. I'm trying to boil it down to 1.
You can DM me the other 5.
Yeah, seriously. Ask him if he's reconsidered the ethical dilemma on the high five from Dale Jr.
Okay, great. No, that's awesome.
On the high five, I'm writing it down from Dale Jr. There we go.
Oh, I got another one.
Okay.
Ask him why he's so darn scared of a bonfire.
That is bound to spark some conversation.
Yeah.
I love it. Perfect.
I got one more.
Okay.
All right.
Ask him if he really likes those disgusting green drinks that he drinks.
Oh, man.
Disgusting.
Going
I'm
hard.
putting the adjectives in here. Green drinks that he drinks. Perfect.
Just-
We're gonna
some cussing next week.
We're gonna have 12 questions from Jeff Gluck, brought to you by Brant James.
That's right.
I love it.
I like how you're flipping it on him. That's pretty good.
Yeah. Perfect. All right, Brent. Well, we appreciate you being on. Hey, I can't wait till the next time. Maybe we'll just sit here and talk about beer for an hour.
Let's do it, man. Just as long as we're drinking while we do it.
All right, brother.
Yeah.
Appreciate it very much. Cheers, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks, Brant.
Thanks. See ya.
All right, bye. Oh man, how cool was that?
That was cool.
Brant James, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, back to our.
I kind of figured he might be a fun guest.
He's just chill,
So I've
having
been
his
hunting
fun.
him. I texted Gluck and I said, "Hey, man, you think Brant wants to do our thing?" And he goes, "I don't know. Why don't you just ask him?" Okay. Well.
Good stuff. Fun. Yeah, that was really fun. Well, we knew we only had. He told us like.
He said
Can you do 15, 20
we did
minutes?
37.
Yeah, you're right. I hope he's not pissed at us, but whatever. I mean, it's the off season. What's anybody got to
Well,
do
he was
right
hiding
now?
from the wife and the child fighting over algebra, so he's probably doing a good spot there. But
Yeah.
that sounded like he had a pretty tasty beer in his hand, too.
Right. So hopefully we at least got him. Didn't have him to the end of it and just waiting to go get another beer or something. It is episode 123.
False.
Time to talk about car number
no way.
23. I know. Like in the like who cares hundreds now, you know? Like in the 123. That's we're not even near a real number or a nice round number anyway. Anyway, car number 23.
I digress.
There's only 3 wins in the number 23 car, which is
Well,
crazy.
the number 23 car in today's world is pretty crappy.
Yeah.
So it's not a
Jimmy
shocker.
Spencer has 0 of those wins,
Jimmy's Spencer with the...
he has 157 races, more than twice the next driver in terms of number of races in the 23 car. So not exactly a powerhouse on the track, which is crazy. All these cars, they get 22 car, 21 car, Wood Brothers and everything, 20 car with everybody that's been in it, a 24 car coming up. Jesus,
Oh, next week's going to be a doozy.
Yeah, we're going.
Well, actually, we're going to be talking about one guy, really. I will
maybe
suspend that.
two guys.
We'll suspend that.
What was and what is. But 23 for some reason, and Dr. Pepper. Come on, 23 flavors, baby.
I do like Dr. Pepper.
Yeah. I'm
Not more than Coke, but I do like Dr. Pepper.
Al Keller, 15 wins with 1 race, but Frank Mundy, 24 wins, 2 races. I looked up a few folks for this one just to see. What did I say? 24 races, 2 wins. I think I said that the opposite way.
I think you might have said wins in there. I was like,
Yeah.
24 wins? That sounds like a
Jeez,
lot.
That's a lot of wins. What are you talking about, Rusty? He was born in 1918 in Atlanta, Georgia.
Well, hell yeah.
All right.
Hope he was a Falcons fan.
Yeah, I guarantee it. Got my hat on, ready to go. USAC champion in 1955. So here's the crazy thing. Here's the blow your mind stat. Okay,
Uh-oh.
He was on the pole in the 1951 Southern 500 at Darlington. He finished in. This is not a typo, and I'm not saying this wrong. In 1951 Southern 500, he finished in 82nd place.
80s. What? Hold on. What did you say?
In the
That's
Southern
2
five-
races worth of races.
in the Southern 500, he
Yeah.
finished in 82nd.
No, I remember when they
place.
used to run like.
Yeah,
I mean,
they
it
ran
sure
everybody.
enough run what you brung. and
Right.
Everybody got to play.
Everybody showed up. So he has the distinct honor of the worst finish in NASCAR history. Once again, shout out to Brock Lascar right there. But yeah, he is. He finished last place, DFL as we call it on the podcast.
DFL.
First to worst in that race. That race was won by Herb Thomas, who we've talked about on the show.
We have talked
it was
about Herb
also
Thomas.
Red Byron's final race. So there you go. And Mr. Frank Mundy, 82nd place. That's nuts. And we've been down to imagine throwing 82 cars on. We haven't seen half that number of cars on that track.
No.
You know,
Oh.
we might have seen exactly
Very
half.
first time we went to Darlington, there
Maybe
might have been
we saw-
43 cars, maybe.
Yeah. Maybe.
The one that Regan Smith won for Furniture Row
There you have it.
Motorsports.
There you have it.
it.
Well, it's not his. It might be his most well-known accolade, but he still has others. He had 3 total wins over 5 years in the early 50s. He passed away in 2009 at age of 90. So let's all hope we can get to that point, age 90. Hats off, drinks up for Mr. Frank Mundy and all his accolades. Well, dude, We usually
Mundy's a hell of a Southern last name.
Yeah, it is. I like this guy. Atlanta, Georgia, too. I mean, that's like an Atlanta name, too. Oh, this is the part of the Mundies,
Yeah.
That's a case of the
You
Mundies.
could kind of grunt that out, Mundies.
Yeah. Oh, the Mundies.
Damn Mundies down the street.
Oh, man. Well, I would play the tearing it down, but we have nothing to tear down.
We ain't got crap to tear down.
We ain't got crap to. I mean, we're just sitting here like spinning pennies to see how long they spin and that sort of stuff to fill out the rest of the season. We're gonna be here. We're gonna keep podcasting. We're gonna do what we do. And I'm really encouraged by the fact that we had maybe 6 questions from the PTM posse this week. So
there was like nothing, and then somebody shot me in the face with a shotgun, which is awesome. Keep doing that,
yeah,
y'all.
it's fantastic. Cameron Tracy at Conrail _ is that a 1 or an L? Unfortunately, in the thing here, I can't tell if it's a 1 or L. Conrail _1 will say.
Oh, I think it is a 1.
Who would you want on the show, and what is your favorite memory of doing the show? Man,
interesting.
I
think everybody is who we'd want on the show. I wouldn't want to single any one thing out because you never know what kind of gold you're going to find when you. There's a little mystery behind who you're having on your show. Like Rick Houston, boy, that was dynamite.
Right,
Rick Mast, dynamite.
Right.
I mean, Cynthia was awesome.
Yeah. People just unexpected and just bring it. And I don't think we've had a guest where we're just like, oh, screw that guy.
Because I think you could overbill it. Like, I mean, obviously, everybody wants to have Dale Jr., right?
Sure.
He totally killed it on the Glass Case of Emotion podcast. He closed after they had, like, everybody on it. Mm-hmm. And they were all funny and they were all wasted, too, which was also awesome. I mean, you could have what would your heap of the mountain be? Well, I'm not so sure one of our super top-tier guys isn't fixing to be on the show next week, right? And then we've had a couple other guys that we have a ton of respect for that have been on already. I don't know. So what was the second part of that question again?
Who would you want to show? And what is your favorite memory of doing the show?
Favorite memory?
That's a good one.
Golly, those campground shows sure were a lot of fun.
It's hard. That's so hard because we have had so much fun. Think about the things we've done. I'm getting goosebumps now. I might cry a little bit.
We did a segment with Gordon Perkles Sr. in the Dawsonville pool room.
I mean, doing a segment with Gordon Perkle in the Dawsonville pool room. We've been in the media center at AMS for Thursday Night Thunder.
With a whole room to ourselves.
Looking down on the races.
And the radio guys looking at us going, what the hell are these guys
what
doing
these
here?
idiots doing? We've we've been on the, like you said, in the campground stuff, some of the campground stuff and the meeting people that's going on there. I mean, just we've done we
can talk about it next week, so I'll suspend one of the things that I thought was the neatest thing about being a part of this podcast. But if we're just talking about being in the studio, I think just the fact that I don't think y'all realize this, but not a lot of people say no, which is really damn cool.
Yeah.
Now, granted, you need to use targeted selection to make sure
you
need to punch at your level. You need to hit pitchers that are at your level, or not your level. That's the wrong way to say it. But like, you need to understand
reach a little bit.
who is in your wheelhouse of exposure. And the thing about NASCAR is almost everybody.
That's a good point.
Because they are so forthcoming with their time.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I totally agree. And another one, Eldora with the lap traffic guys and Cone and NASCAR Chasm came in. And
that was a neat deal.
That was fun. So all these experiences that we've had and the people that we met and all that sort of stuff, I mean, what can you say? Favorite memory? It's impossible. All those things are it's like favorite child or I guess everybody. I've heard that parents secretly do have their favorite child. So.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I get a ton of elation out of like folks sending us pictures of where they've stuck our sticker.
Oh yeah,
and that's a part of this show.
Absolutely, very cool stuff.
Actually, I sent 5 stickers out this week. By the way, we had a good run.
Yeah. So I hope, Cameron, that we've answered your question by not answering it at all.
We didn't answer it at all, but that's fine.
Who would you want on the show? Anybody that wants to be on. What's your favorite memory? All of them. That's terrible.
Actually, I'll be honest with you. Going back and listening to like some of the ones that we hadn't had audio figured out yet. Like it's fun to listen to that. Like maybe just listen to a couple of minutes and then compare it to where we're at now.
Yeah, that's fun to do.
And Rusty and I have always prided ourselves on we'd rather learn on the fly than start perfect. Like we'd rather not postpone starting because we're not sure what we're doing. We just start doing it and figure out what happens next.
Yep, absolutely. So next question from the fellas across the pond. My opinion and therefore fact podcast at MOATF podcast. Fellas, what's happening? They ask the
That's
V8
Andy and David, by the way.
Andy and David.
Yep.
They asking, should I do it in a British accent? That'd be kind of funny. I'm not going to do that. That would be disrespectful, probably.
Well, they would probably appreciate that.
They would laugh. I would be disrespecting the entire island and continent.
You have to say urinal.
Urinal.
Urinal. That was the one that really tricked me up all season. How in the hell? All right.
Right. All right. They asked the V8 engine. It's a bit like the dodo bird in most of the world, except in supercars. What's the long-term solution, as NASCAR has to change at some point?
No, the hell they don't.
That was my thought when I read it. I mean, they kind of did with is it Xfinity Series? Looking at that sort of stuff. Putting the V6s in and stuff, but
they did in the 80s.
Right.
When the Busch Series started, it was a V6 for those keeping score at home. The original Busch Series that started in 1982 was a V6 engine. Then they started realizing that, all right, if we want the major teams to play in that series, and they wanted to play because they wanted to develop people, the motor platform needed to be the same. So they just kind of detuned it, essentially, which is what we have now, right? There's a big old spacer on the top of the Xfinity Series car now that restricts airflow. But essentially, it's the same displacement. It's the same motor. I'm sure they've got it all the way down to the fine-tune on how much the rods weigh, what spring rate on the springs are. I think the biggest, like the next step for NASCAR is going to be a V8 engine. But it's going to be less displacement. It's going to be the 5.0 or a 5.2 or somewhere around in there, the way the Camaro and the Mustang are going. Those engines are not going away for a long time because Americans love those cars and they love those engines.
Yeah.
They love the way they sound. They love how much power they can deliver now. Of course, those are both dual overhead cam motors now, and that's where you really start adding expense because you have variable cams. The reason why those cars, like today's Mustang and today's Camaro, the way they can, and the Corvette, the way they can produce so much power is they have variable dual overhead cam, which is crazy nuts expensive.
I think it's a possibility if we see, like we were just talking about with Brant, with the way the money is going and stuff. You just don't have this engineering arm and all that sort of stuff that teams can afford unless it's just a hobby for some rich people like ultra. I shouldn't say rich. I'm talking about like the super duper rich. What I'm trying to get at is the series could get to a point where it goes back to its roots, whatever we want to say there, but more of a like you said, less displacement. So we're more like the race on Sunday and buy it on Monday sort of stuff.
Well, I think we got to get to the pony car displacement. To really actualize that race on Sunday, sell on Monday. Like, I think you need to be able to buy a detuned version of a Cup motor or an Xfinity motor in your Mustang or in your Camaro.
Yeah, which you're close with like the Roush packages and stuff they've got. That's pretty cool, but I say close. That's not close, but that's at least cross-promoted?
Hey, well, so, and I don't know if you saw this or not, but Junior took somebody for a ride at Talladega in a ZR01 or whatever the most souped-up racing Corvette is that you can actually still buy in a showroom, and matted it.
Yeah.
And went like 185.
Yeah.
And the guy in the car was like, so how fast are we going? He was like, 185. And he's like, what the
Yeah.
He's like, are you kidding me? Like, yeah, this thing's fast. It's got good grip, too.
Love it.
Like, I mean, I think where we're going next is we're going to pony displacement, which in general speaking is 5.0, 5 liters.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a much larger leap to get to overhead cams because of the small parts that are going to be amazingly expensive and have to be replaced after basically every practice.
Yep. Yeah.
Until they figure out how to not break motors, because right now if you don't know, we're in a truck engine V8, y'all. We're at a 358 cubic inch displacement max. You can run under, you can't run over. We're at a center cam, which is what's called a push rod V8. A lot of y'all are going to know that. You go, oh, we already know that. That's okay. That's all right. It's part of this thing.
We're reminding ourselves.
We're reminding ourselves, and we're introducing people to new platforms. And right now, the most expensive thing to replace is all of the internal components, because you can actually do something with the block after you run the race. The internal components are all garbage.
Yeah.
And so one of the things we're going to next year is you got to run the race. You got to run that engine 3 times, which means you have to build the internal parts to last for 3 races.
That's cool.
Which means I don't know that every part that's made out of aluminum today is actually still going to be able to be made out of aluminum tomorrow. We'll have to see how they figure that out.
Yeah.
Or it might be a heavier part.
Yeah.
So those are all the little things with the motor.
Yeah, I'm not seeing that change anytime soon. I mean, eventually, where do we get to?
My God, if they go away from the V8, I ain't going to the racetrack.
Right? Electric cars. It just sounds like whoosh as they're going around.
I don't see it for when I say a very long time, I mean at least in another generation.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would say, we're 25 years away from going to something that's not a V8. Going to a blown motor like the IMSA.
Mm-hmm.
Is probably further away than that.
Brings up a good question, though, in terms of, like, I know I'm saying electric motors and stuff, but the torque and the acceleration you can get out of those things and then drive them around a track, that could lead to some interesting races. I'm not saying NASCAR needs to do that. I'm saying, I'm curious to see what those races, get people out there in those new Teslas and have them run a 100-mile race or however long the batteries can last at full throttle.
Oh, I'd love to see that.
That'd be cool.
Without a doubt. I just want that to be a different series.
Right, for sure. So, MOATF, we hope we've answered your questions there and looking forward to the next episode.
Hacked at it with a hatchet a little bit.
Yeah, right. So that's 2 questions in a row we haven't answered. Let's go for 3. Mark Wiley, at _NASCAR Nerd, which driver moving to a new team will see the biggest personal performance increase from 2017 to 2018? Bernard, Blaney, Eric Jones, Almirola, Casey Kane.
So here's where this question gets weird to me, is personal performance.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we really probably have to throw that adjective out. And
which
one of these teams, which one of these car numbers is going to see a performance jump based on replacing a driver?
No, see, that's interesting because I was thinking more along the lines of which of these drivers is going to perform better next year than this year.
Well, that's a different vein, and I'm glad you brought that up because we'll just line them up like the 21 car that Blaney was in this year that Menard's going to be in next year, the 12 car that didn't exist this year that Blaney's going to be going to, Jones getting in Kenseth's ride, Almirola getting in Danica's ride, and Casey getting in Michael McDowell's ride.
Yep.
If you compare those stats 2017 to 2018, who's going to see the biggest who's going to see the biggest jump in performance?
Yeah. I think where the question's
to me
going.
The Chevrolets jump off the page.
Okay.
Because I think everybody knows the Chevrolets were behind on some of the things you need to go fast at 14 of the 36 races that we race, the mile and a halves, and then throw in the 6 more ultra fast tracks where you put the 2 miles in there. I think you're going to see the Chevys pick up. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that Casey is going to pick up speed, but I would say he's probably going to pick up a little bit.
So my thought on this question is who is at the lowest, who has the biggest disparity between where they were at in 17 and where they're going to be in 18? And there's 2 names on that page that jump out to me. Paul Menard in the 21 and Eric Jones in the 20. Those, and in terms of performance.
I would have put Almirola in there.
Almirola, that's hard to say. That's hard to say because the 10 hasn't performed, but maybe it's who's in the 10. Nothing against Danica, but it that definitely has a lot of the backing. So, I could see Almirola. Eric Jones just, to me, he didn't have.
Oh, you're saying what's the gap from what you perceived the car that they left to what you perceive to be the car that they're going to?
Yeah. I feel like Paul
what
Menard.
the car's performance is.
Paul Menard has the biggest upgrade here, right?
Oh, by a long shot.
Right. Eric Jones, I'm saying. Well, no, because I can't say the car is necessarily the biggest upgrade.
Better.
No,
I really don't.
I think his performance this year was lackluster compared to what it will be next year, and maybe that has a lot to do with driver and less to do with movement of the car.
I think it has a lot to do with a 21-year-old getting in a Cup car for the first time,
right?
With a first-time team.
I mean, hell, we saw it with Logano and.
So these are the things that I am super interested in talking about because Logano got in a Cup car. We're not. I mean, William Byron's not on this list. We're, weaving in and out of this question, but he's so young. But yet, that 77 performed really well for a brand new race team and a brand new driver to Cup. They had some really good runs, and so I expect him to do just fine in the 20. I'm not saying he's going to win. I can't. When we watch what we've seen the last 3 years, you can't say, "Oh yeah, these guys are so good at Xfinity level, they're just going to win and Cup right away." Well, if Chase can't do it, and it took Blaney 2 years as well, it took Larson 2.5 years. Let's be realistic here. This is tough.
Yeah, yeah.
There's only 18 cars that can win a race, and usually only about 15 of them will.
Yeah. The one that we haven't mentioned, Casey Kane in the 95. I mean, objectively, that's a downgrade in terms of backing, in terms of engineering, in terms of resources, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I think across the board there's a downgrade there. But driver-wise, I mean, he hasn't been happy. Does this make him happier? Does a happy driver make a better driver? He also, I mean, he won at Indy, so it's not like,
Well, so he proved.
Will he do better than running at Indy and running in 20th every other race?
I think we discussed this right after that, and I believe it's still relevant, and it will always be relevant. Is that the last 3 times that Casey Kane had a last chance at victory restart, he nailed them.
That's a good point.
His last 3 wins have been crazy, wild ass.
Yeah,
I kicked everybody's butt in the restart. So I think the driver and the passion and all the fun stuff is there. What we don't know is Levine Family Racing ready? Are they ready to win a race? I think they've proven that they're ready to get better.
Yep.
By moving around, aligning with Chevrolet, and Michael McDowell has had some great runs. Michael McDowell is not what Casey Kane is on an oval track.
Sure.
That's a bottom line factual statement.
Right. I think we'll be able to see what Levine Family Racing
and they're going to be in a Camaro next year.
Yeah. So, good question, Mark. We'll move over to Mick Rose at GoDucks42 _Mick. If the NASCAR season was shorter, maybe we should ask this over to Brant. Do you think that would increase the number of NASCAR drivers you would see entered in the Snowball Derby and Chili Bowl? Mick, for me, I like that it is a premier event with few NASCAR. It's something that I can watch.
I don't want to see a bunch of Cup guys do those things.
Yeah. Is there a corollary over there to like the Xfinity Series stuff? Like, we don't want to see Cup drivers in this. I really don't want to see a field of Cup drivers in those kind of cars. I understand what they might bring, but in terms of viewership, in terms of blah blah blah. But I think I like what they are for what they are.
I think one of the things we've seen with guys like Mick Rose that have been a big part of supporting what we're doing, and thank you very much, is the guys that grew up on that open wheel dirt stuff, like as fans, or maybe they even grew up racing some of it themselves. They are hardcore about that discipline. And the idea that a Chili Bowl might include Casey Kane, Jeff Gordon, Kyle Larson, what's the Christopher Bell? Just one of the
Tony Stewart?
truck
Question mark,
series.
question mark, question mark.
Tony Stewart, Ryan Newman.
Yeah.
All these guys that we heard about that's the way they started. You know, Tim Richmond started in a freaking open wheel sprint car. All right. You know, there's a great story about that. You need to go watch his 30 for 30 if you hadn't seen it, y'all. You know, I think they'd love to see that crossover. I'm not sure it fits as well with the Snowball Derby because I mean, Kyle Busch has his own cloud that surrounds him.
Yeah. Knocking stuff
that
over.
surrounds him, and that's fine. One thing that he is maybe the best at of anybody in the sport right now is a talent evaluator. So that is a guy that you want to go run that race.
Sure.
Because he might identify the next William Byron or the next
Eric Jones or
Eric Jones. Yeah, so William Byron was a junior product, but yeah, Eric Jones or Christopher Bell or I mean you name it, guys that Matt Tifft, guys that are getting shots in JGR equipment at the Xfinity level, and they're getting Kyle Busch Motorsports attention at the trucks level. You need a guy like Kyle Busch down there. I think that's healthy for the sport. He's going to bring talent in because you know what? If he brings so much talent and he doesn't have a car for him, somebody else will find one.
Sure.
Or a truck.
Sure. So that's it for the Ask PTM questions. We're coming up right on an hour, which is perfect for our normal time frame. It's the off season. We've got nothing to talk about, and we still fill out an hour.
It's easy to run our mouths.
Yeah. You know what's funny? I wrote in the show notes Rusty story here, and I had sent you this story. I figured I'd tell it if we needed some more time, as if we ever need more time or whatever.
We almost never get to those extra stories.
Yeah. I'll run through it real quick because I thought it was kind of funny. This is the Morello story, right? So what happened is Sherman's laughing. He knows what it is.
Wait, did I never send you the strangest thing? Because we
No, you
have
didn't.
to do that.
You didn't. Okay, we'll do that.
Yeah.
While you're grabbing that, here's the funny thing. We've talked before about like dudes' haircuts, like what it is to go get a haircut as a dude versus what it is to go get a haircut as a girl.
Oh yeah.
And here's another one of those classic like what dudes talk about when they're together versus what girls are talking about.
Oh, it's not okay.
And girls get like, it feels like girls get all of the information, right? That's always been the joke, right? Like husband comes home, hadn't seen his buddy in 20 years, and wife is asking him like, so how is he? Yeah, he's good. Is he married? I don't know. Does he have any kids? I don't know. Like, what y'all talk about? Well, we talked about the game.
We drank beer.
And
there was stuff.
talked about football and stuff. So exact same thing. Dude, fraternity brother of ours. I've known this fella for 15 years. We're good friends, right? We
hug.
We hug when we see each other and all that. We're high-fiving. We're having a good time. We for the past several years, they've hosted a tailgate at Georgia Tech football games. We have season tickets to Georgia Tech football games. We go over to their tailgate. If there's 6 home games, we go over there 5 home games and hang out. I talk to this guy. He sits in the section next to us. I talk to this guy on a weekly basis every fall. We sit and have a 10-minute conversation. Not sit. We might be standing and drinking beer and having fun. 10-minute conversations, 20-minute conversation, 30-minute, whatever it is, right? For years now. And I've known him forever, right? Here's the thing. I'm at work the other day.
He's camped with us for like a whole race weekend.
Oh, yeah. We've had a blast. That was fun. That was fun.
One of the best ones we've had.
So, yeah, he's camped with us for 3 days, right? So here's the deal. I'm at work the other day, right? I get on the elevator.
There he is.
Coming back from lunch.
He brought like 700 cases of beer.
And yes, he did to that race. I remember that now.
Budweiser. Diesel.
Bud heavy.
Bud Diesel.
He suddenly jumps on the elevator. I go, what the hell, dude? What are you doing here? He goes, what are you doing here? I said, I work here. He said, bull spit. I work here. I said, where do you work? He goes, 4th floor. I said, I work on the 3rd floor. How long you been here? Years. We've been in the same building. He never talked about it in all this time that we've been talking. Never talked about the fact that we work one, physically speaking, 8 feet from each other, but 1 floor away from each other.
That is awesome.
There's the Rusty story of the week.
Have you upper decked his bathroom yet?
Well, good question. I'm going to go up there and I'm going to text him, hey, buddy, wouldn't go into your bathroom for a while. Anyway, so there's the Rusty story. Hit us with that strangest thing, Sherwin.
All right. Holy crap. Sorry, I have to switch screens here. Here we go. Florida woman found with 12 frozen corpses attempting to run a cryogenic storage facility out of a barn with regular deep freezers. Was sentenced.
People pay her for this?
Was sentenced to 20 years for mishandling of a corpse and fraud.
Well, definitely the fraud.
Yeah. So, what do we think of the sentencing? Is that an overreaction, and what the F and the fun letters that are after that? Like, they paid her, so she was supposed to be doing a thing.
So this is like low budget cryogenics, right?
This is very low budget cryogenic.
Like what
this
Walt
is
Disney
like that.
did. This is.
You remember when your grandma had that, like, over on the side porch, had that like 5
had the
or
big
like
freeze.
that 4x6. Like, you open the top.
Oh,
and
yeah.
There's a whole
Oh,
bunch
yeah.
of, there's like a bunch of dead animals in there.
Yeah.
Like, the animals in this case was people,
Was the human beings who paid her to do this.
who paid her, right? So they could revive them one day when cried.
Right.
Yeah, all the things.
Well, here's the thing. You said mishandling of a corpse. She handled the corpse exactly as those people asked her to.
Well, so this is
evidently,
where I'm at.
I guess, right? Right. Now, fraud, I totally believe. Fraud, she's got that. 20 years for that fraud? I don't know, maybe. How much money was she given for this? But fraud is for sure, because you ain't going to bring back somebody after sticking them in your deep freeze, next to the ground beef and stuff.
Yeah, and she had like 12 of them, which means she had to have at least, about 4 of those things?
Or a real small people or real tight quarters.
Well, so I texted Ashley, I said, all right, I'm not so sure about this question. I need some details. I'm like, what the hell? You left out some context.
And this is in Florida. I mean, obviously it's in Florida.
I made that part up because
okay.
Florida's funny.
Okay, gotcha.
All the weird-ass shit happens in Florida.
Right.
So, I mean, but it was in a barn, and, deep freezer, like you would go, all right, if I shot a buck and I gutted it and skinned it and butchered it myself, I would need a freezer.
Sure.
Especially if I was going to shoot my limit for the year.
Right.
Well, they had people in that thing.
The people. Oh, man. That's a great question. Here's the thing. I would give her community service for fraud. And like the pointy, shaky fist, don't you do this anymore. All right. This is it. And no other shady, like you can't do any other shady, weird thing either, or we're throwing you in jail. But 20 years, I think she's got a case against the mishandling of the corpse. She handled exactly what they wanted.
Yeah, I agree. We don't know how much she was paid too, so that'll factor in a little bit.
Yeah,
I think part of the community service would have to be like watching, like whatever, like a funeral home prepare a body.
Yeah,
and then like put it in the refrigerator thing.
Right.
I mean, this is morbid as hell already. But,
right? What are we doing
like,
here?
You should have to like mop up the entrails or whatever, or handle the buckets that they go in.
The buckets. Brant James is going to be real proud of his name being on this podcast.
He's going to listen to this and go, I'm getting fired again or something. I don't even know.
Off we go, dude. It is time to close this thing out. This is, y'all know where to find us. Online at PTMpodcast.com, at PTM Podcast on the Twitter, on the Instagram, everything else. We're all over the place. Y'all join us. Y'all have fun. Let's, I don't know, do our thing. It's golf season. Anything goes. We'll talk about
shot a -3 today, by the way.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Welcome back, Tiger.
Yeah.
I might start watching golf.
Me too.
Awesome. Thank y'all for joining. We'll definitely catch you next week. Jeff Cluck on the podcast. Y'all hear what's going on. There it is, y'all. Thank you for joining
Oh, we still live on a YouTube.
on the YouTubers. Yes, sir.
That means I can say some outlandish stuff now.
Barely. Well, I need to start saving this thing.
What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. Y'all already know where we're at on this PETM stuff, but oh, look. What we got? What the hell is Orange Cone 2011?
I do not know that answer.
How glad are you they replaced cone with a box? They said really, really happy. What kind of box? Thoughts on Herm Edwards? Oh, that came in too late for us to get to.
I don't know that. What happened?
Arizona State. I don't know if he's got ties there or not. I should have looked it up already. But evidently he's going to be the next head coach at Arizona State University.
Hello.
Guess what? In Atlanta, Georgia, we don't give a refried cuss word about Arizona State. They don't factor into decisions or watching
True.
or none
We do,
of that crap.
I do care about the co-ed population there is pretty.
Arizona, despite popular belief that Ole Miss and Georgia and some of the other SEC schools have the hottest college women on the planet, they are wrong. Arizona in Tucson and Arizona State in Scottsdale, they win.
they done something right.
They
They're
win.
sending the right people. All right, dude. It's time to close this thing out on YouTube too.
All right, I'm Andrew Sherwin at Pregame Engineer.
Tailgate Mary at Tailgate Mary. Y'all know what the deal is. We'll catch y'all next week with Jeff Gluck. So peace out. Have fun.
From JeffGluck.com.
Y'all be good. Y'all be bad. Don't care.
Be bad. For sure be
we'll
bad.
Catch you later. Thanks for joining. See y'all. Whoop.